Welcome. I'm Bernice Ross, CEO and President of BrokerageUpandRealEstateCoach.com, and I'm very happy to welcome Brad McDaniel. He is the brother of my co-host at Real Estate Coach Uncensored, Greg McDaniel. But Brad, just an amazing achievement here just recently. You were voted by 60,000 agents at Keller Williams as the best AI application that's in the marketplace right now. Now that's saying something because it's not what I think. 60,000 agents have said this is the tool that you need to be working with. So we're going to be talking about Likely.AI, and that's Likely.AI. Brad, thank you for being with us today.
Great. Bernice, thank you very much for having us on. We're really excited to get to have a great conversation with you.
Well, I'm so excited to have you because I have been watching this space that looks at how do you predict when sellers are going to sell. And you were early in this space and then some stuff came up and now you've come back. You know, how long have you been working in this space to begin with? Over 10 years?
Well over 10 years, yeah. I think our first application was back in 2007. And at that time, really the industry didn't really want it. We were on the bleeding edge of things, as well as the technology stack hadn't matured to the point to where what we can do today was viable. And so some of the first generation of predictive analytics or machine learning or artificial intelligence wasn't really that. And it was expensive to do and the results were pretty bad. So we actually got a patent for doing it back in 2013, and I've been waiting until I saw the market, the demand for a product like this to actually bring this to market where it takes the reputation of this type of technology, AI, machine learning, predictive analytics, call it what you want, and say, okay.
You're going over the heads of most of the people that are listening, but the bottom line is, all the things you're talking about is that you now have something that accurately predicts what level, which sellers are going to sell. It's the kind of bottom line. And that's
the bottom line in 90 days. And if you are a client, what I would tell you is last month's file is the worst file we're ever going to deliver to you because the team is constantly making improvements by doing a lot of, if I get into the geek speak, I can tell you about it. Just take my word for it otherwise.
Well, we had the geek speak conversation beforehand, but what you told me, and this is, first of all, like you said, this is because it's artificial intelligence and machine learning, it is constantly getting smarter. So the files will continue to get better and better. The prediction will get better and better as the AI matures. But so talk to me about your last measurement period. How many leads did you generate? How many of them converted? And then how much sales volume did that represent in closed sales? Because this blew me away. It's just impressive.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're constantly expanding our footprint across the nation, as well as evolving the methodologies and kind of the hyperparameters within each methodology. So our most recent, full back test we did in, I think it's about 900 or 1,000 counties. We made a prediction on 137,000 and change. That's how many properties we predicted would list. Of that, 10,393 actually listed. So it's roughly 7.5%, 8% overall. There's a couple of states in there that really had almost zero. There's abnormalities or they're atypical states. So when we kind of don't include those as like a normal way to do things, we'll 10%, a little over 10% on average across the board. And the value of that to an individual brokerage is almost $4.2 billion in listing volume.
So your tool, for the people who are in your system, generated $4.2 billion in sales in 90 days.
That's exactly.
So, and if you were to take that out, four quarters, essentially, you're talking, close to $17 billion in sales. So while we've got, Zillow wanting 35%, all these other companies wanting 35%, You have a very different model. So first of all, I want to dig down a little bit more into what what you're doing. How many how many points are you looking at in terms of deciding who's most likely to sell? Because, I know NAR says that, well, gee, you've got a 20% conversion rate for people who are ages 18 to 25, and then you've got that same conversion rate, about the same for women over 75. So 1 out of 5 for them. But that's just one data point. How many are you actually looking at?
So we have over 4,000 data points.
So 4,000 data points. What kinds of things are you looking at, Brad? Because just kind of give me an overall idea.
Yeah, the two primary categories are demographic and real estate specific things. Some things that we don't include, which are probably more interesting because you'd probably expect us to be doing this, would be leveraging some of the online intent signals. And we don't leverage that today, specifically because we're concerned about all the changes going on with Google and Apple and so forth, that cookie-based intent data could evaporate at any day. And so we wanted to make sure that our platform persisted regardless of what decisions made by a third party.
So you're looking at things that are more like tied to the property or the characteristics of the seller, things like age or location. We know that, for example, when you've got a 25 or 3,000 square foot house, last child, goes away to college, they're very likely to sell right after that graduation. Those kinds of things. Is that kind of what you're doing?
In essence, but we take it several steps beyond that.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is
of course.
What you're talking about, and this is exactly the point I wanted to get to, is those are the kinds of things that I've made decisions on as a broker or as an agent. And now what you're able to do is so far beyond that. So if I sign up for Likely.AI, how many data points do I get about the property and the client or the owner?
So we decided to partner, and we can talk about the business model, I'm sure, here in a second. But to align ourselves as a partner with our clients, we don't just provide an address and a name. We provide 137 data points that allows our partners.
Wait a minute, 137 data points?
137 data points.
Yeah, okay. What are you getting from Zillow?
Probably a name, address.
Let's see, a name, maybe a phone number and address. That's what, 3?
Yeah.
3 data points to your 137.
So, I mean, it's we really want to enable our clients to make those programmatic campaigns that, if we know that someone is a single mother who, has maybe a couple other pieces, that you speak to them with a softer tone compared to maybe a beers and bros, guy who just got divorced or whatever it would be. I mean, it's the same message, but constructed in a different manner to resonate well with the recipient. So that's why we, putting my marketing mind on this, we try to eliminate all the noise and come down to just still, good number of fields, but enough to give you the options to create really innovative campaigns and populate the landing pages and whatnot with the data that we provide. So you can kind of have an end-to-end campaign.
So what your tool will let me do when I get that data set, I can see, okay, this is a single mom. She's got 2 kids. I need to have her in a different marketing program as compared to somebody, like you said, is a beers and bros guy, maybe hasn't been married, and that's a whole different profile. And the thing is,
we have several clients that use one of the fields that's just I didn't think was going to be this impactful, but they use language spoken. So up north it's Russian and Polish. So he put his guys who speak native Russian and Polish, and all the marketing materials, or Facebook ads or whatever, all are now getting a longer shelf life because it's in a native tongue. In the southern states, it's Spanish usually, or French on the East Coast. So really, whatever that audience is, if you have or retarget that specific segment of the market, it's a way to extend and kind of connect to them outside of, let me help you with the biggest transaction of your life.
So right now, it sounds to me like this is about to make the leads programs from the big portals obsolete because the level of data they're providing is it was the best of what they could do. But now what's available with what you're doing is really the next generation going forward. So let's talk about, first of all,
I think
how much,
I think that you hit that exactly right.
pardon
And
me?
I think you said that exactly right. That's how we talk about it internally. And when we think about what does that mean to do that right, is we have to become an intelligence as a service business, and that's what we are bringing to market. And we're leveraging AI to make predictions about who has intent to sell within 90 days as the first product we're delivering, in this intelligence as a service wrapper. So,
I love that intelligence as a service. So, yeah, I think this is really on the verge of, quite frankly, I think this is going to upend a lot of the models. And I find it very interesting that Keller awarded you this because I know everybody's in this race to see who can get to the consumer first.
yes, that's it.
And what you're doing is not just get to the consumer first, but the likely consumer. And that's the big difference. Yes, you qualified yourself when you called, when you clicked and you filled out a form on some site, but this is different. Now, I know people are probably wondering, what is the cost? Okay. And before we get into that though, there is, if you're just doing a few transactions a year, this is not the right option for you. What are the, I think we talked about, they need to be doing at least 50 to 100 transactions a year and have somebody who can handle data files, and this can be somebody who's just trained to, essentially work from a spreadsheet. Is it that simple?
It's that simple. I mean, we artificially, limit the number of licenses or clients we want to work with within each area, specifically because we don't want to cannibalize the value prop within. And we're really looking for just the one or two best operators that can turn our likely seller predictions into commissions. And to do this effectively, the revenue model that we've chosen is where we just charge a low monthly license fee by area. Think of it as a qualifier. You put some skin in the game, but the SaaS revenue from that is not the way that we were able to raise money and get our investors interested.
Yeah, our listeners don't know what SaaS revenue is. Essentially, that's the revenue from charging the $2 or $3 or $400 a month, whatever, just depending on the size of the area.
Yeah. And so it's the back end where we can then partner with, by limiting the number of licenses or clients within each area, we can partner with them. And as they're successful by turning our likely sellers into commissions, we can go from, we look at each county or each area as its own little P&L. We go from red to black as our partners are successful. So what
happens is I pay a base fee of somewhere between $200 and $550, depending on the size of the area that the locations that I choose.
Yep.
And then from that, unlike what's going on now with the big portals where they're charging 35%. You're charging 10%, and essentially what this does is it lets you get in for a minimal cost. You're not getting grading here, but it's a win for everybody. And let's see, 10% of $4 billion.
Yeah. That's why we want the operators. We want to capture.
You're taking me to lunch next time.
Yes, ma'am. No problem. We'll be happy to. Look forward to it.
So, so you're talking about 50 to 100 transactions. You have some channel partners who have also created tools where I can tie what you're doing into the whole auto dialer. Could you say a little bit more about that? What those tools are and how that works?
Sure. Right now, the primary audience, like you were asking about, are these brokerages, regional teams, market centers that have all of this capability. But we started to find that there were some really great potential clients that didn't have the resources in play, like the marketing platform ready to go. And so we didn't want to just overlook these great teams. So we found a couple of channel partners that did a lot of customization, and even some of our others that have all of the marketing tech already in play. they wanted to reduce the amount of effort it took. So now one of our channel partners, you can take our primary file we send you every month. You can literally drag it and drop it on to your account, and it auto-populates a programmatic text campaign. There's an auto dialer built in through Twilio integrations. They have API integrations with print mail and email campaigns, all built in. It all is ready, set to go, and all the reporting comes back. So it's really simple, really simple.
So I could, so they've created, so all these campaigns are written for me.
Mhm.
And you told me that it's, one of them is around about $200 a month, plus whatever print, if you're doing print, there's more on top of that, obviously.
Yeah.
But
you do get a lot of included, like a couple thousand texts, a couple of 15 hours of calling or whatever. Like all the basically, if you're really going to be in there, it's got a lot of power. That single punch. If you're a massive power user and you want to do 1 million calls a month, okay, I'm sure there's a couple of bucks more, but I don't know exactly what those costs are. But yeah, yes, it gives you a lot more space back.
Yeah, if if you're interested in this, and that's something to take a look at, definitely. So if I want, these numbers are really intriguing to me because, we're having so much trouble getting listings. And what we know from NAR is the first person who has that face-to-face appointment is the one who gets, you've got to get belly to belly first. Yeah. That's the key thing. And that's what your tool lets them do, right?
It's exactly what we do. We're telling you who is going to be listing the next 90 days. And one question we always get with that is, oh, well, I call expires, I do this. Are you guys similar to that? And so we've done extensive, research into what we predict to guarantee that we're not going to be delivering anything that has an MLS status within 90 days. So they're not your standard. And then even outside of that,
that's a really important point. So anything that's been on the MLS in the last 90 days is not included in this. So this means you're not trying to sell expired listings or whatever. So these are sellers who have not raised their hand yet, or maybe raised their hand a while back, but now they're, for whatever life events or other things have happened that are going to make them.
That's exactly right. And even when we look at it, like just to say 91 days to 120 days, kind of that next month, that's a very small percentage when we look at the distribution of where the likely sellers, like the true predictions, come from. The vast majority fall into, they haven't been in the market for a long time. There are some that are just outside of that 90 days, but the vast majority are well outside of that, where they're more than a year, 2 years out of the market.
So, and those are the people you want to get to, because everybody, again, the other thing that this does, it really, instead of having the dial expires, which is like, or for sale by owners, which are not a lot of fun unless you're very good at it and you like doing it, you've got to have this, you've got to have the skin of a lizard or something real thick skin.
Yeah, exactly.
Like something that bounces off. I was trying to think what has a super thick skin. I'm thinking like crocodiles.
Yeah, you have the shark scales, you never.
Yeah, I got to get through it. But instead, you're hitting that person at the time where they need your services. They have the profile of, and again, what the AI can do is can really, can bring those people to the forefront, and nobody else knows about them, because unless they've got another AI program that's tapping into this, they're invisible.
And we can confidently tell you that we are, the most accurate in the market today. If you ask anyone else that's doing something like this, one in what is true out of your predictions, they're going to give you a runaround and not give you an answer. And I think just 2 seconds, a little story that one of our early beta users told us when they can say, tell us how it went. What they came back and said, Brad, what you've created, is a model that captures those people that are driving down the street, that are noticing the for sale signs, but remembering the names on the for sale signs, or they're walking into a little cafe and they're grabbing the newspaper to see what listings and kind of what's going on in the market. They're in that decision state. And I took that to mean that it's very similar to a kind of a famous case study that was done by Target, where they determined that the one time when you can change a woman's shopping pattern is when they're first pregnant. And so they early on they used trying to determine, if you're just buying diapers, is that for you or your friend, or like basically trying to see when women are pregnant, and they were successful with it. And there's a whole funny story I can tell you, but
Oh, let's hear it.
the funny story is that this father came in to their local Target, steaming hot, cussing up a storm, because he goes, "How dare you sending me my daughter, who is 17, all of this information about diapers and Gerber and basically everything you need if you're pregnant? What are you trying to say?" And the store manager's like, I don't know. This is corporate marketing. I'm so sorry. Like, this guy had no idea what to say. And so the father leaves the store upset, comes back about 2 weeks later and goes, "I have to apologize to you. I've had a real conversation with my daughter and she is pregnant." And so they were targeting that one point, when people haven't said, "I'm going to do something," or there's a change in my life, or in this case, a desire to make a change to where they live, and capture that ahead of time so they could, rather than spam every woman with stuff they don't care about, is just target the people who actually were receptive to understanding or learning more about something, and then actually look at you as a value add than just a commodity. "Oh, I can give you the best interest rate." Like, people don't care about that anymore. Like, they want to make sure that they can have a connection, and if you can introduce a service or a product at a point in a transaction life cycle where they're receptive to that piece, they didn't have to go Google it. There's a huge win there.
I'm just thinking Target knows if you bought a pregnancy test.
Yeah, but they don't know if it was for you or for your friend.
Yeah,
They basically have to take
that's where the other, one of the things I've
holistic
been told that is very predictive was when somebody signs up for, they subscribe to a baby magazine.
That's
Highly predictive.
we currently don't even use any of that online intent data, because there's still some validation pieces that we're concerned with. But sometimes you hear, this is funny, you don't like this. Like, I think, who was it? Like, one of the real estate apps just said, "Oh, we're using AI to help not do this." And we really dug into the comments of what they were doing. They were just layering in the intent data and saying, "Oh, we figured this out." And it was like, "Oh, what was my wife looking on Zillow this last month?" And so they got the cookie data, and now they say, "Okay, that belongs to this house, so they must be selling." Or maybe the wife just really loves the pictures of these $1 million homes. And so that's the part that there's, just because they're doing something, that's, that does not equal causation.
This is a
Correlation.
really important distinction. And I used to teach statistics, so correlation is not causation. But what you're saying is everything else that is, that is not a very rope, you've been working with your AI platform for, since when did you say it was, like over 13 years?
Yeah, we've the first version of this, considered likely kind of V2 of this company. The first one was back in 2007. We got a patent for doing the work in that deal in 2013. And then we started Likely after an Inman conference about 3 years ago, when everyone there was talking about AI and big data, and they're really excited. Basically, the market had matured to the point where they wanted a solution, and the current offering in the market were really marketing automation platforms rebranding themselves, and it was tarnishing their reputation, and that upset me. So I'm like, you know what? Someone needs to go in there and actually deliver a product that delivers on what they said. And so that's been our mission, is to build the highest precision in the models we can make. And real estate's very hard to do this, and I can go into detail about why, which I'm sure no one on this call right now cares about, but happy to at some point if you'd like me to.
Well, I think, the huge takeaway here is, Brad, that, the level of sophistication of your tool is not really matched by anyone else in the space doing this for real estate. That's number one. Number two, for the people who are early adopters, and if I were actively selling right now, I'd be signing up for your tool, and, let's go at it, because, and even if you're getting started in the business, if you had the wherewithal to be able to convert the leads. And again, this is where your training comes in. You guys put me in front of the right seller, but I still need to be able to convert that lead. So if you're good at converting, leads, and the good news is you don't have to go through thousands and thousands of bad leads to get to the few, less than 1% convert. And it's a 12 to 18 month cycle generally if you're getting stuff off the portals.
Yep.
And then, yours is in 90 days, 8 to 10% likely to sell. That's a pretty good number.
Right.
So
can I tell you a story on that? Because I think you will like this as well. One of our clients recently did her first print campaign in the Boston area. And after 2 weeks, she calls me and goes, Brad, I've gotten over a 10% response rate. I've already gotten a listing and got 13 CMAs. I have to put things on hold. What did you do? I was like, I love it.
She's put out 15 CMAs. There you go.
Yeah, she's just like overwhelmed. We have another client in Santa Barbara that, came in and came back to us with a funny story to me going, hey, Brad, like we were training ISAs on how to call outbound, and we started.
And ISAs are internal salespeople. So these are people who have somebody on their team who's dialing and who's essentially they're calling people to convert them. So it's like a lot of teams have that. Sorry,
so they were doing that training. They were basically training up a new inside sales agent, and on the training call, they get a listing appointment. And so he said to me, he's like, Brad, it used to be harder than this. I swear, like this is awesome. So we're seeing these and that's just a couple out of the success stories. We're having lots of these points all over the place, whether you're doing calling or print or digital, it's working. And, that's why we're looking for the best teams to work with because we know that they are professional, operational, and they have probably already made multiple investments in MarTech. We want to be that intelligence as a service to enable you to get a much higher return from investments you've already, those fixed costs have already been made.
Well, I tell you what, that's a great thing to wrap on. So we've been visiting with Brad McDaniel. He is the CEO and founder of Likely.AI. And, if you're doing, at least 50 transactions a year, if you're doing more than that, this is the tool that I personally would be using. I've been tracking the AI space, and there hasn't been a good, strong player in terms of predicting who's most likely to sell. This blows out the portals. It stop if you don't like dealing with expired listings and for sale by owners. Yep. This is way more user friendly. So Brad, thank you for being with us today. It's been a delight.
Thank you very much for your time and for your audience listening to me kind of rabble on about what we do.
Great. Thank you so much.